Power Rangers Ninja Steel Return of the Prism was a disappointing premiere for a new season. Despite some questionable seasons, Power Rangers has been fairly consistent with having incredible season premieres. However, Return of the Prism feels rushed from the beginning, with glaring inconsistencies and odd storytelling choices. The episode begins 10 years in the past with Brody, our new Red Ranger, narrating the arrival of a giant artifact that looks like a ninja star called the Ninja Nexus Prism. It would have sounded a little more interesting if they had just called it the Nexus Prism, but I guess we have to remind kids it's a ninja theme. The Ninja Nexus Prism falls from outer space and crashes in Brody's backyard, where his father discovers it. Bringing it back to his work shed, Brody's dad removes the outer layer of metal encrusting the prism, which we later find out is the titular Ninja Steel. Trapped inside the Nexus Prism is another artifact called the Ninja Nexus Star. Notice the theme yet? For whatever reason, Brody's dad is able to reach inside the solid prism and pull out the star. Soon after, the season's new villains arrive to take it. That's when Dad says to Brody's brother Aiden,
"Take the Ninja Steel and hide it."
But wait, Brody's dad just removed the metal crust. How does he know that it's important? How does he know it's called Ninja Steel? Did he just decide to call it that? Is it just because he's a ninja that he decided to call it Ninja Steel? I wonder if he does that frequently. Aiden, I packed your ninja lunch. Don't forget your ninja backpack. So Aiden runs off
like a ninja.
Then Dad faces off with the evil Galvanax and his two cronies, Ripcon and Madame Odious. I call them cronies instead of generals because, as far as I can tell, they're not war leaders. They just stand around snickering like your standard bully sidekick.
So you're the Ninja Master.
Did I miss something? Brody's dad was never introduced as the Ninja Master, yet Galvanax refers to him as the Ninja Master, as if he's the only one. Is he known throughout the universe? It's possible Galvanax is suggesting that the Prism came to Brody's dad because he's a Ninja Master, as in,
so you're the Ninja Master the Nexus Prism has chosen.
If so, we should have had some setup here to clarify. Dad uses the Nexus Star to morph into the Red Ninja Steel Power Ranger, and we have a pretty cool fight scene. But to prevent Galvanax from getting the star, he shatters the Nexus Star into 6 pieces, which morph into the 6 Ninja Power Stars, which are the new power coins for this season. Within the first 5 minutes, we have Ninja Nexus Prism, Ninja Nexus Star, Ninja Steel, and Ninja Power Stars. Couldn't this have been spaced out a little bit better instead of crammed down our throats? Dad mysteriously disappears, and the Power Stars become re-encased within the Prism. Calling it now, Brody's dad probably got absorbed into the Prism, like Prince Ivan was absorbed into Furious and Power Rangers Dino Charge. Galvanax takes the Nexus Prism back to his ship along with Brody.
Bring the Prism to the ship and put that brat in chains.
Why bother taking Brody? You might say that maybe Galvanax wants to use Brody to obtain the Power Stars. Fair enough. But we find out later that Brody has been on Galvanax's ship for 10 years working in garbage disposal with no mention of any attempt to use him. If this was Galvanax's plan, then he would have realistically tried to use Brody right away. And if it didn't work out, there's still no reason to keep him around. He would likely just toss the kid out the airlock. It sounds more like the writers just really wanted Brody on the ship but didn't spend the time to develop a solid reason for why. So 10 years later, Brody is still on Galvanax's ship working garbage disposal. We meet 2 new supporting characters, Redbot and Mick, who is played by Kelson Henderson. Kelson Henderson is a reoccurring actor who has provided his incredible talent to the Power Rangers franchise since Power Rangers Dino Thunder. He's portrayed such memorable characters as Boom from SPD, Phineas from Mystic Force, and Nord from Operation Overdrive, as well as provided his voice for many others. It's great to see him back. Brody then tells Mick,
"Speaking of escaping, it's time we made a plan to get out of here."
Brody's been a prisoner on the ship for 10 years, and he's only now talking about escape? Of course, Mick brings up an excellent point, that they are both on a spaceship and there's nowhere to escape to which Brody replies,
"You tell me. Hey, you're the mechanical genius."
Exactly how is being a master mechanic solve the fact that Brody is in the sky? Is he supposed to just secretly build a spaceship? Ripcon enters the room and Mick yells,
"It's Ripcon!
Why does Mick need to hide? Is he not supposed to be down there? We just watched Mick helping Brody with a load of trash, so it seemed like he belonged there. Again, a few seconds of dialogue to set this up would be nice. Speaking of setup, Mick apparently has the power to transform into objects. It's not explained in this episode what the limits are of this ability, like can he transform into other people, aliens, animals? Regardless, there was no setup. It just happens so quickly that it's difficult to register at first. We don't exactly need a Dr. K explanation, just a quick mention. Uh-oh, Mick, here comes Ripcon. You're not supposed to be down here right now. Hide, quick. We're in the trash room. Where am I going to hide? Just transform into something. That's what you Transformers are good at, right? But I'm not really supposed to. Oh, fine. Ripgon and Brody have a quick exchange. Then Madame Odious comes in and says,
Prisoners, take the Prism to the stage. The show is about to begin.
If the Prism is so special, why is Galvanex allowing prisoners to cart it around? Later we see that Galvanex has plenty of Kudabots, this show's version of putty patrollers, to run menial tasks around the ship. Heck, at one point the Kudabots are even carting the Nexus Prism out onto the Galaxy Warrior stage. So why does Madame Odious need to have prisoners do it? Wouldn't that lead to trouble if a prisoner decides to, I don't know, abscond with it? Oh, wait a minute. I understand the writers needed an excuse to get Brody up to the stage to watch the fight and move the plot along, but this was not thought out well enough. We're then introduced to the Warrior Dome, which is a large arena on Galvanex's ship, where he broadcasts a TV show called Galaxy Warriors. Hosted by Cosmo Royale, the show pits the strongest warriors in the universe and provides the winner an opportunity to reach inside the Nexus Prism to retrieve the Power Stars. The first two contestants we see duke it out on the show are Lavagore and Korvaca, who should look very familiar to fans who have kept up with Power Rangers over the past 10 years. Lavagore is a reused suit of Power Ranger RPM's main villain Benjix, and Korvaca is a reused suit of one of Power Rangers Operation Overdrive's many main villains, Mig, the Fear Cat. The fact that the production crew behind Power Rangers chose to reuse suits of two main villains from previous Power Ranger seasons is confusing and raises questions about the ongoing continuity. If they would have just reused random Monster of the Day suits or even modified Monster of the Day suits from previous seasons, that wouldn't have been as bad. But what they did here would be like reusing Lord Zed and Dark Spectre and claiming they were Red Guy and Magma Dude. The crowd is also made up of several aliens from previous Power Ranger seasons. They are from Power Rangers Ninja Storm, Beevil and Vexicus, from Power Rangers SPD, Thresher and Broodwing, Mystic Force, Necroli and Behemoth, from Operation Overdrive, Krazar and Camdor, from Jungle Fury, Jellica, Snapper, and Weiger, and from Power Rangers RPM, Nightbot. And then there's this guy, who I've not been able to identify. Did I miss anyone else? Let me know in the comments. Korvaca wins the fight, but is repelled by the Prism. Galvanex complains his plan isn't working when Madame Odious comes up with a plan to create new Power Stars from Ninja Steel. How did Madame Odious's spies learn about the Ninja Steel? 10 years ago, the only person who ever saw it were Brody's dad and his brother Aiden. Did Aiden just run around blabbing about it? That would be pretty un-ninja-like.
Like a ninja.
It's possible her spies found Aiden and learned of it by listening to his conversations or by tricking him. But if they had found Aiden, why not bring him back to the ship with the Ninja Steel? He obviously can't morph yet. We then cut to Earth and are briefly introduced to this season's Rangers. Preston, the Blue Ranger, Calvin, the Yellow Ranger, Haley, the White Ranger, and Sarah, the Pink Ranger. Though the episode primarily just focuses on Preston and Sarah for now. After this, Galvanex's ship arrives at planet Earth, and we see Brody looking out at the planet. After being held prisoner for 10 years, you'd think that Brody would be a little more emotional to see his home planet again. But instead, we get a weird brooding stare. Brody's plan is to sneak the Nexus Prism onto a ship and fly away. But he's foiled when a few Kudabots finally realize how stupid it is to allow a prisoner to handle the ultra-powerful artifact of the season.
Getting out of this tin can is gonna be a cinch.
With the way this ship is loosely run, I'm not surprised. Brody then mentions there's a plan B and runs off. But I'm not sure how Brody's first plan was going to be successful. You're telling me that a couple of recognizable prisoners would be able to cart the Prism all the way out to a dock and load it onto a ship without anyone noticing or asking questions? Back on Earth, we get to meet this year's Bulk and Skull, Gaston and Dorky LeFou, or as this show prefers to call them, Monty and Victor Vincent. Also, I normally don't like to pick on the acting in a show like Power Rangers because, well, it's Power Rangers, but Christy Agne's performance as Sarah, the Pink Ranger, is rough. I think my main problem is that her eyebrows just don't move or express, which makes her entire performance feel stiff. Though I know some of the blame needs to go onto the acting coach here, who probably just said, fuck it, it's Power Rangers, it's fine. So then we get a goofy hoverboard scene, which ends pretty much how you expect it to. After 24 years, Power Rangers is still following traditional 90s formula.
Is your hoverboard okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I built it to be as tough as a freight train.
By the way, throughout the episode, there are small hints as to what the Rangers' new Zords will be. The Blue Ranger will have a Blue Dragon Zord, thus we see him transform into a Blue Dragon costume. Yellow Ranger's Zord is a dump truck, so we see him working on a yellow truck at school. And White Ranger's Zord is a dog, so we see her with a husky. So you would think Pink Ranger's Zord was some kind of hoverboard probably, right?
I built it to be as tough as a freight train. I have the strength of 10 freight trains.
I think the writers are trying to tell us something. Brody's plan B is to shoot himself, the Prism, and his friends out of the garbage disposal and free fall to Earth. Preston and Sarah see the falling debris and decide to go check it out. Galvanax finds out about the theft and decides to send the most recent Galaxy Warrior winner, Korvaca, to get the Prism back. So wait, if this Prism was so important that you went down to Earth with your cronies to retrieve it the first time, why are you now only sending one monster to do it? Are you just too busy updating your Facebook account to go with them? And this is one of my major issues with the episode. It's bad enough that the monster coordinator this season dragged 2 suits out of the closet that happened to be primary villains from previous seasons. But it's worse when they are using Mig, or Korvaca, as the monster of the day. If you're a diehard fan desperately trying to maintain continuity between the seasons, these kinds of thoughtless decisions annihilate any possibility. So then Deus Ex Sarah comes in to save the day, and for some reason says,
Why is that thing chasing you?
But at no point was Mig chasing Sarah. Were the writers drunk? Then Brody notices the power stars begin to glow.
It's glowing, like the Nexus star did 10 years ago, before my dad pulled it out.
How does Brody know this? He was outside training to be a ninja from a Party City catalog when his dad pulled out the Nexus Star. He shouldn't have any knowledge of the event, let alone that they glowed when he pulled them out. Brody, Preston, and Sarah pull out their power stars and transform into the Ninja Steel Power Rangers.
You'd be crazy to fight this guy on your own.
Just like the Datacom said.
So at first I was confused by this until I figured out that the Datacom is a communicator Brody wears on his wrist. Earlier, Brody explained that the device connects to the ship's computer. Makes sense, but then he calls it computer. If he had referred to it as Datacom, then it would have made more sense when he referred back to it later on. With Mig destroyed, the Rangers hide the Prism under some rocks.
No one's gonna find the Prism here.
You mean Galvanax can track the Prism across the galaxy, but if it becomes buried under a few rocks, he has no way of detecting it? The Rangers figure out what to do next when Brody suggests that they should go back to his childhood home.
To my old house. That's where the Ninja Steel is.
But earlier in the episode he said,
Do you know where it is? I don't, but my brother Aiden might.
did he just forget before and remember now? And did he really think Aiden stuck around the house for 10 years? Aiden knows you never find a ninja in the same place twice.
Like a ninja.
And that was Return of the Prism, the premiere episode of Power Rangers Ninja Steel. Again, as far as Power Ranger premieres go, this was one of the franchise's worst, filled with questionable story choices and more than a few inconsistencies. It felt like the writers just gave the script one pass and didn't really workshop it. Maybe this was a symptom of a rushed production. But regardless, the crew behind this season have done some amazing episodes of Power Rangers in the past. They are capable of a show far better than this. There are also too many MacGuffins that are all crammed into the first few minutes of the episode. The show is called Ninja Steel, but the actual Ninja Steel seems to be a third wheel to the Prism and the Power Stars. It would have also been more interesting if Brody belonged to a long line of ninja masters who had guarded the Nexus Prism for centuries, until one day the evil Galvanax comes to steal it. Instead of Galvanax kidnapping Brody just because, what if Ripcon pulls a Ridley and feels pity for the child, taking him under his wing to continue his ninja training? This could then help explain why, though a prisoner, Brody is allowed to freely walk about the ship without chains and move the Prism around. Maybe Ripcon sees himself as a surrogate father to Brody after 10 years, and hopes to see Brody participate in the Galaxy Warrior fights, but then he feels betrayed when Brody escapes with the Prism. This can create animosity, but also a connection between the two. It would have also been nice to see Brody attempting to escape the ship. It seemed as if escaping was an afterthought for the sake of the episode, when really, they could have spent a whole episode showing us the life that Brody had to endure on the ship, and how important it was for him to escape. The actual escape from the ship was so rushed that I wondered why they even bothered with the concept if they weren't going to take full advantage of it. To sum it all up, Return of the Prism was a wonderful concept, full of potential, but poor execution. You know, like Suicide Squad.